Hey guys, so recently some of you requested to see my WTF plane in more detail, and I probably should do one of these videos anyway because I need to go over some of the more experimental aspects of this plane. I know I've done informational segments of videos on this plane in my previous videos, like my maiden, but this one's going to be a little bit more in-depth, and it can actually help you guys build one if you want to build one, because this is a pretty fun plane to fly, and especially for ultra micro FPV, which is what I designed it for. So you grab one of these little cameras here and you just place it right in the front, right there, like that, and that should give you like a perfect little view, or even mount it up here, and that'll be very, very good because you don't have the props in view or anything. And it's a nice small little plane to carry around with you, or do some light flying in small spaces. So since the last time you guys saw this, I did not have the paint job on it. I recently added this due to me building this around Star Wars Day. Added some cool Star Wars decals like the Rebel Alliance logo, Rebel Alliance Space Force. Got the logo there, got some space scratches, red leader, got the exhaust markings, got my logo, and number 1. So as you can see, I've named it Red Leader as I showed. So let's start on the electronics. So I'm running this plane off of an 1800 milliamp hour 3-cell 30C, and this thing is like the perfect battery for this because it gives you around, I'd say, 10-15 minutes of flight time, and it's like the just right amount of weight. And then I have some 60-30, I believe, 3-bladed props counter-rotating, and then I have some Heads-Up RC 300 class 1900 kV, I believe, Blue Wonder motors with prop savers on them, and I have some 5-gram servos, a 4-channel receiver, and some more 5-gram servos for the ailerons. And for these I've already shown this, but I'm using little disposable floss picks for these. That they actually make really, really good control horns for planes, much better than some of the store-bought ones. And here I have some motor mounts made out of plywood, backed by some pieces of foam cut in triangle shapes, 90-degree angles. Nothing super serious. You don't really need anything. These provide enough strength for the size of the motors used. You don't really need to cut out plywood supports for them. I have some 12-amp ESCs, and for my electronic setup, what you're going to have to do for a twin, in case you guys already don't know, is you're going to have to connect your battery leads to a combiner, and then that just feeds both of the leads into the battery power, so it provides power to both motors. And then also you're going to need a splitter for a Y harness for the motors, and you're going to have to cut off, I think it's like the dark, it might be the middle wire, I'm not sure about that. I'll link a video in the description. Oh no, here it is. You have to cut off the red wire right in the middle there, so that you don't overrun the receiver with power from both ESCs, because what that does is it takes out the power of one ESC, because you only need one ESC to run it correctly. So I know this doesn't look like the strangest plane in the world, but there are some experimental aspects that I've added to this that sort of draw it apart from other planes that I've built. So number 1, I have this folded section of arm and wing, and then I have an added-on extension that's just a folded piece of foam board that I've glued and taped on there that seems to work just as well as an extra piece of foam, while not having to use 2 sections of foam board for this wing to make one wing. And it also reduces a lot of weight from having the extra arm and section go all the way out to there. And also the ailerons function just fine even though they're glued and taped together. And then I have a high lift wing for the width of the wing, which is like 6 inches or something, and I have 3 pieces of foam board in there, so it's got quite an airfoil curve, which adds to, as I've already said, the flight characteristics, where it will just sort of get up to a max speed, and then increasing power will sort of just increase torque and the rate of climb. So my original intention for this design was to have 3 motors, one here, and one right here. But the problem is it would be too much weight as I calculated, and it would fly either really fast, and it wouldn't be very fun to fly FPV with. So, and also it would interfere with all these wires here. So it would have been quite difficult to factor all that in. And also we'd have to add a couple other of these power splitters, or whatever they're called. And that's why there's this V shape here. I would have just had it as a straight back spar, which is what you guys can do if you want to build one, because it'll probably be stronger. But to increase the weight of this, I added some barbecue skewers to it, nothing much. And then I have this really cool looking tail. As I've said before, you don't really need rudders. This thing tracks pretty well. You can just go bank and yank with it. And let's start on the dimensions. So the overall wing length of the plane is 40 inches. That includes the extensions. For the arm and wing, it's just 30 inches, and then it's 5-inch extensions on either side. The total length of the plane itself is 23.5 inches. You can totally mess around with that because it is sort of short for the wingspan that it has, so you could extend the spars back there, and I think it'll still fly pretty well. You just have to watch out for the CG. Speaking of the CG, it is about 2 inches back from the leading edge of the wing. The total length of the wing is 6 inches, so that's about 1/3 back, which is where most planes' center of gravities are. The length of the fuselage itself, the fuselage is detachable, as you can see with these rubber bands that I have around it. That's where the battery goes and all your FPV gear. So the length of it is 12 inches, and the diameter of this folded fuselage I have here is 2 inches. The lengths of the ailerons are 14.5 inches, and then by 1.5 inches for the size of them. And the spars, just so you can get an idea of how, if you want to build this exactly like I said, they are about 2.25 inches away from the fuselage, so this length right here. And the motors are 3.5 inches away from the fuselage, so this distance right here. And that allows for the props to clear the fuselage quite nicely. And also, since it's a twin, you can factor in a differential thrust and get some rudder input, I guess, there, and maybe do some pretty cool flat spins. The overall weight of the plane, including the battery, should be about 16 ounces or 1 pound, but you can go over that a little bit if you want to put, say, like a little camera on it, like a Mobius or something, and if you have larger FPV gear. But I wouldn't go much over 20 ounces, because then I think you'll sort of have trouble getting it in the air. With this current setup and the weight that it has plenty of power. So that's about going to wrap it up for this video, guys. If I missed anything, or if you would like a build video even, I don't know if I'm going to do a build video because those things take a really long time to make. I'll definitely list all the specs in the description, and just comment if I missed anything, or if you want to build one. I'd love to see a flight. And yeah, wish me luck in the Experimental Airlines contest. I don't think I'm going to win because it's not the weirdest thing ever, but thanks for watching.